So in this video I wanted to talk about being really observant with your horse. So observing their normal behaviours, keeping an eye out of any change in behaviours, any change in the way they eat, any changes in behaviours when you're riding them. And the reason that I'm talking about this is because I want to talk about Ty here. So Ty is a 9-year-old off the track thoroughbred who's in with retraining with me, and he's been going really well. What I've noticed over the last week is he's changing behaviour. So the first thing I noticed was in his work, he just seemed a little bit more, he seemed he's normally very relaxed. He's really good at his basic responses, stopping and going. And I noticed, the first thing I noticed was he didn't want to stand still in his stop. So when I'm asking him to stand still in the arena, he didn't want to stand still. He also started doing a behaviour that he started. He's got hay all over him. He started doing a behaviour. When I first got him, he had a little thing where he wanted to turn around and go back out the gate. So if you were asking him to go somewhere, he just wanted to turn around and go back home. He hasn't done that for ages, so he started doing that. And I was just observing that. I thought, that's interesting. I also noticed that he was a little bit more tense in his work. So this has been over since about a week, just over a week. So what day are we? I'm trying to think what day we are. We are Thursday. So Monday, it pretty much over the last 7 days, 7-8 days. Then just taking note of that, and then what I noticed is, I mean, he's eating up really well now, but he wasn't eating all his hard feed, which is very unusual for him because he's a really good eater. He gets huge feeds, and I noticed he was a little bit, he wasn't eating up, and he was a little bit flat in his temperament. Just sort of standing in his yard instead of eating. So I took note of that, and then he's sort of lost a bit of weight, and his coat just a little bit dull. So I took note of all these things and thought there's something not right with him. And this is where, you know, I've had people say, oh, well, he's just being naughty, you know, when I know it's not. But a lot of people will just think, oh, well, you know, push him through it, he's just being naughty. Whereas this is not the thing to do. They're always, so horses are always telling you something. And I knew that he just wasn't right. So I wanted to make a really big, big point about this, because often the attitude is, oh, just push them through it, they're just being naughty. But that's not the case. Horses are always telling you something. And it's really important to be aware of their normal behaviour and behaviours that aren't normal, behaviours that they're starting to show. And this is a perfect example here. So I knew he wasn't right. I also noticed too, my doggies are barking here. Poppy, pop. I also, pop, Poppy. I also noticed too, I worked him yesterday, that he was sweating along his neck, and sweating sort of a little, I mean, it wasn't really bad sweat, but I know that if a horse sweats and shows a little bit of white sweat, like a little bit of a foamy sweat, that's usually, unless they've been out eventing or they've really exerted themselves, that's a sign of stress. There's something, you know, they're either in pain or they're stressed, and he had just a tiny little bit of white. He was just he was just sweating more than he would ever normally be sweating on his neck. And that was another sign. So I thought, no, there's something wrong. I already had started thinking what could be his issues. And now here that he's upped his work, so he's in his training where he's doing a lot more trotting and started some cantering, and I know that he's had quite an extensive race career, and that he has some issues. He has a dropped fetlock on his off front, and you know, so I knew that there was probably at some stage he was going to start to feel his joints. He has got some splints, and you can see just through his racing career he's a little bit thick down there. I was very, I was worried that when he came into training, and I always knew that was probably going to need to get him on a joint supplement. So we have organised a joint supplement for him. I also noticed with his not wanting to eat, he's sort of dull, a little bit flat in his mood, and not wanting to eat his hard feed, that I think he could be reacting to some pain in his gut, so ulcers. He was scoped before he came into training. He had what they call grade 1 ulcers. With the extra work, even though he's on a really good diet, they're really, horses are very prone to ulcers. Now, when it comes to working your horse, when you're doing it extended periods of time of trotting and cantering, even 20 minutes or more, what happens is acid starts to splash around in their stomach. It's not normal for horses to work. You know, they have spurts of running and then they'll stop. In nature, they don't run for 20 minutes. And in our equestrian disciplines, as domestic horses, we expect them to be working longer than they normally would. Now, their stomach never stops producing acid. It's always important to never work your horse on an empty stomach, and to give them hay. If they have been out on pasture, depending on if they've been out on, pasture, you bring them in, at least give them a quarter or half a biscuit of hay, even a full biscuit of hay. Loosen hay preferably before you ride them. Now, he gets hay, but just his symptoms have shown me that there's something a little bit off with him. So we've also now got him on a really good digestive product. I use Gastroaid Recovery, Colado Gastroaid Recovery, and it's interesting. I've just actually started him on it today, and would you believe it, just in his one feed, he's already eaten up all his feed. So that's really interesting. So it'll be really good to see how he, seeing a change in his behaviour. We'll get him on a joint supplement when it arrives. It's already been ordered. But I just wanted to point out that instead of brushing off any changes and you know, especially under riding when, you know, they may be not wanting to do something or not wanting to soften in the bridle. Like I just noticed he just didn't even want to be as soft as he normally is. In his you know, coming down and working around nice and relaxed and soft, which he's learning really well. So, you know, instead of what you know, quite often you'll be told to sort of push through it and they're just being naughty, I recommend and highly recommend, you know, observing. Poppy, my dogs. I've got dogs everywhere, love my dogs. Highly recommend, you know, taking note of changes in behaviour, and, you know, horses are always trying to tell you something. Listen to them. They're going to react to pain, that little bit of extra sweating, you know, is a sign of, you know, stress or a bit of pain. It's usually a bit of pain. So, yeah, just wanted to touch on that topic today. He's a beautiful, beautiful boy, eh? And we'll just, you know, I'm really confident that he's going to come through and really improve over the next week. So really important to observe the daily habits of your horse, observe everything from how much they eat, if they're leaving food, their coat, their manure, if they're, you know, if their droppings have changed in texture, yeah, so, and just their mood. So really important, and I just wanted to have a chat about that today because it's come up that I've got a horse that has noticed, you know, and it happened quite fast actually. So all of a sudden he's gone from a very relaxed, happy horse to changing in behaviour, you know, pretty much, you know, within a day or so. So yeah, I wanted to let you know about that, and I'll update you on Ty.